Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. The Circuit Clerk of Madison County, Illinois, Matt Melucci, died of cancer in May. Mark von Nida, the longtime County Clerk of Madison County, is the Democrat Party's 2012 nominee as the next Circuit Clerk. Mr. von Nida, a native of Madison County, was first appointed to the position of County Clerk in 1997. The County Clerk is responsible for all elections held in Madison County, maintains voter registration records, vital records such as birth, death, marriage certificates, preserves records regarding annexation and incorporation of local units of government, retains records of all county board actions, computes property tax rates, and collects delinquent property tax. The Circuit Court Clerk is responsible to file and process state and local court cases, collect fines and fees, maintain and certify court records, store court exhibits, clerk trials, and process all paper records on behalf of the court. Upon making the announcement he was seeking the circuit clerk position, Mr. von Nida said, referring to his county clerk position, "I do realize that there is such a thing as staying too long. I've always believed that an elected official should move on before the voters become shortchanged." Mark von Nida, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you.
What were you referring to there in those last couple of sentences?
Well, I didn't want to be one of those, and of course I've been around long enough to know that there are people that have stayed too long on a job, and at some point it becomes so routine, routine is probably the word, but a rut, you know, and at that point I just feel like the person that's in the job is no longer doing the job, they're writing it out. You know, and you hear about that, you know, people writing it out to retirement. I didn't want to be like that. And yeah, I mean,
So 15 years you've got in, is that right?
Yeah.
That is a long time on any job.
Well, you know, I've been lucky. I've had a interesting career, I think, and the county clerk's job is kind of, it's been an honor because I've been associated with elections I believe very deeply in, and I've, you know, had a lot of success in delivering on what people expected from previous clerks. I mean, Madison County has had a good reputation for great elections, and so I've just, like I said, I've been honored to be associated with it. I've worked to improve it, and now I'm confident that the next person that does it will carry on that Madison County's legacy.
Now you've had, well, let me just start by saying, when in Florida there was a debacle with punch cards, you had gotten Madison County out of the punch card.
It's one of those things, and I think, you know, it's part of the way I view my job as a leader of an organization. I wasn't satisfied with punch card. You know, the more I found out about it as the county clerk, the more I became convinced that we could do better. You know, we could do better. And so I sought I pushed to look at different systems that are out there. There's people that wanted to go to the touchscreen kind of stuff. But I became convinced that optical scan was really the cutting edge technology, the most cost-effective way about changing things, and so I pushed it, and I didn't shy away when I ran in 1998 about wanting to change. People elected me, and then I used that to convince the county board that we needed to do that in 2000. It's a privilege to be actually found correct. You know, very few times are you know, in politics do you get to say, well,
I was right.
I was right. Yeah, events have proven I was correct.
That's right. You know, we spent some money. Now it costs some money, didn't it? But at that time, this is before the debacle, did the federal government have money for you? Or I know after 2000, the federal government was pouring money into a lot of
We spent
counties.
about $800,000 from the county funds.
Was that considered a lot?
That was a lot. In fact, it was almost as much as we'd spent 20 years earlier when we converted to punch card. So it was a lot of money, and yeah, that's the most money that I ever spent ever in my life. And I always knew that it was my money; it was the taxpayers' money. But you know, I made the case that it was an investment. It was a technology that was going to pay off in the end. So. We spent county money. We later were able to recoup some of that money from the federal government subsequent to the debacle. We call it the debacle, the election of 2000. The Congress passed the Help America Vote Act, and that freed up $2.5 billion worth of federal funds that were geared towards elections. And
did you get to see any of that after the fact?
We did. That. First off, the equipment that we use for early voting is that money that we were able to get, and that's the thing is we're actually fortunate in that we have two systems. We have the system that's election day, and I think it's the best election day system. But the problem with early voting before election day, is that you set up a number of centers, convenient locations. But, you know, with the optical scan ballots, we would have to have a ballot for every single precinct out there for people to be able to go to a location no matter where they live, just like they go to the bank, just like they go to the grocery store. They need to be able to go there and then get the ballot.
The ballot style.
The ballot style.
Yeah.
The ballot. Well, they vote on what is
their local neighborhood.
For their local neighborhood, whether it's their state senator, their state representative, in some cases their county board member.
Exactly.
So
township.
In a typical general election, this like the one that's coming up here, there'll be about 45 different kinds of ballots depending on where you live.
You're talking about the November election?
The November election.
Yeah,
right.
That's your maximum, right?
No.
No?
The election that comes after that in April, that is the local elections, the cities, the townships, the library districts, the park districts. Those are actually 1,500 different kinds of ballots that you have to manage when you're managing the election. But
how big of a job is, how big of a job is that after you've done it a few times?
No, it's a big job. It is. It's a wearing job. The thing about election officials, and whether they're election judges or whether they're county clerks out there or whether they're election commissioners, you have to appreciate is that that's part of the job. Part of the job is to put on an election that people expect will go without a hitch.
Perfect. It's got to be perfect. Otherwise, nowadays, it didn't used to be. Lawyers and lawsuits.
You have a lawyer. You have a smaller. You have a smaller window of air than NASA. Really, if it's not 98, 99% air free, then you're really in trouble. But 99% still leaves 1% kind of out there. So you really try to hit 100% every single election, and we've been very fortunate to do that. But people expect it, and so every single election is a grinding affair. Now
you like early voting, don't you? You're a proponent of that?
I am.
Why?
It's a modern convenience that people expect. You think about this is that there's just no other thing, no other part of modern life where
you got that day.
You got one single day, a window of one single day where you have to go to this particular spot and satisfy the people at this particular spot that you get to vote, and then you mark your ballot. That doesn't fit in with most people's modern life these days. You know, I mean, just imagine if your bank said that. No, no, I'm sorry, we can't take your deposit today. You'll have to wait until next week to deposit that, and then you'll have to go to the branch location that's right next to your house, not the one over here next to where you work. I mean, people would say, well, I need a different bank. That's the reality of the 21st century. The 21st century, people require convenience because they're busy. They have busy lives. And so early voting creates that convenience that people expect. I'm going, you know, I'm ready, I've made up my mind, I know who I want to vote for. I'm going to fit it into my day on a Saturday afternoon. You know, in between, I've dropped the kids off for swimming practice, and I've got to go to the grocery store, but I'll drop by that early voting center that's right there and get that done. Mark it off my list, and then I can move on to the other to-do things that I have to do.
So how far in advance can people vote from the November election?
15 days.
15
This
days. And
just changed up to 3 days before the election.
Okay.
The governor just signed the law yesterday, changing it so that, but that's the time frame now. It's 15 days out from election day, which 2 weeks, and then right up to the Saturday before election day.
Just so people know, today is July the 10th when we're taping this. They're
Yeah.
probably seeing this sometime in August. So.
Yeah, so October the 22nd, it'll be the first day for early voting, and what would that be? I guess it's November the 3rd will be the last day.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of detail-oriented work in the county clerk's position, and now you want to move over to be the circuit clerk. You know much about that job?
Well, I do.
In other words, are you ready to make that move? It's like what? You've got 3 or 4 times the number of employees
right.
over there, and you have, you know, court cases, you know, coming
Sure.
at your ears.
I'm familiar with the court system. Before I was county clerk, I worked at the state's attorney's office. I was an administrator in the state's attorney's office. Before that, I worked in a law office at a civil litigation firm.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a background, and actually before that I worked for a period of time at the county detention home. So, you know, I know the back end of how important it is, people actually incarcerated,
Mm-hmm.
that we get things right in the circuit clerk's office.
And there's a good staff in there right now.
It's a great staff. They're by all accounts, it's a group of 80 people who are very dedicated, who work very hard. So I'm looking forward to it. Management is management. And, you know, so I've managed increasingly larger staffs, and I think that's part of this, is that, you know, I do look forward to the challenge of being a manager for not just a unit, but multiple units. So it'll be a challenge, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, what do you think the biggest challenge is going to be?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is that to change the culture within the office, to kind of come into line with my beliefs about how a public office ought to run. I'm a big proponent of customer service and customer relations, and just because people are captive, you know, captive customers, just because they can't go anywhere else to get what it is that I'm offering in a public office, doesn't mean that we can't give really great customer service. And you know, and then the second part of that is that to convince the workers that it's a good thing to do for themselves personally, to have an exchange with that person, whether, you know, and they may not give them an entirely satisfactory answer. I mean, these are people who are paying a traffic fine. I mean, how nice could that be, coming in and having to give the circuit clerk money that you'd rather spend on going to the movies or having dinner, but you're giving them money. But there's a way that you can make that exchange more palatable for the person coming there. You know, I'm absolutely convinced, and So I see that as convincing the people who are there to buy into customer service approach, and convincing people who come there that at least they were treated fairly, they were treated like everybody else, there wasn't any favoritism, and that they were treated professionally will make the experience a little more palatable.
You mentioned traffic tickets. In some places, that's almost like a cattle call. I mean, they got, you know, these metal chairs. A whole bunch of people sit in these metal chairs, and then they you know, deal with the judge, and then they have to march off and pay some clerk, or I don't know. I guess they don't put them in jail if they can't afford to pay, do they?
No.
It's like work out some sort of a payment plan.
And there's a variety of options for people when it comes to traffic tickets.
No debtor court here.
I think that the sheriff's work alternative program and the probation's work alternative program, these public service part, are very popular programs where people who don't have money are able to work off their fines by doing things like you know, being part of a group that cleans up weeds along the road, or picks up trash, different things like that. So
a bad deal during the heat of the summer, but it's not too.
Or the cold of the winter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But still,
but if you don't have the money, there's alternatives to pay.
Yeah. Sure.
So you're a big proponent also of computerizing work. You've done a lot of that at the county clerk's office.
Right.
Is there something in the circuit clerk's office that you're looking to, or have they pretty much have a satisfactory system now?
We can do better. I mean, you can always do better. I think one of the prospects that I look and I see it immediately, and of course this is huge. I mean, what it'll involve, and I think, frankly, I'm going to be somebody that could do this because I have the experience of working with law enforcement. I have the experience with working with technology, working with clerks, but something called E-citations.
What is it?
E-citations.
E-citations.
And similar to the old days of talking about punch cards, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Well, think about this. And if a police officer goes to do a traffic ticket these days, every police car in the county, in Madison County, in fact, most of the country, they have a laptop computer now in their police car. And instead of calling it in, and then they actually look stuff up from the driver's license. They can see on the screen where the person's driver's license, where they reside, what they're, who's registered with the car. That kind of information's all on their screen in their computer in their car. And then they pull out this ticket pad.
And start writing.
Now, the ticket pad is 3 or 4 part, and I think it may be 5 part actually, 5-part carbon copies. And this is
which you can't read when you get down to the bottom.
Well,
right.
So they have to press hard to make sure they get through the carbon copies. You talk to a kid like my kid that's in first year of college and talk about carbon paper, and you go, carbon paper? What are you talking about, carbon paper? But we're still using carbon paper in patrol cars all over this country where they're writing out citations. And what is it? But the funny thing is that they're copying the information from this computer screen onto this carbon paper. Now, that's inefficient. That's terribly inefficient, but it doesn't stop there. I mean, this carbon paper actually goes, our carbon copy actually goes back with them to the police station, where a clerk at the police station puts that into their system.
Yes.
Yeah, put it into the system again. That's not it. We're still not done. Another carbon copy will go to another carbon copy goes to the circuit clerk's office, where another clerk will put it in. The taxpayers have spent the time paying this police officer the time to write this out off of the information that's really already on his computer. Time that you could be on it's exasperating. You just got a ticket, but you got to cool your heels while this is all getting done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It's a bad
at least make that,
situation.
make that a little more convenient. Boom, you know, print this out, and give that to you. That could be done. That could be done, and then you have actually, the police station would have it automatically. The circuit clerk's office will have it automatically. The disposition could be put into the computer at the end of the day automatically by the prosecutor or the judge. There's plenty of room to do better. And that's just one example. Carbon paper is a wonderful thing. We can go visit it at the Smithsonian, but we need to get it out of the police cars. And you know, and Madison County could be one of the first places that we do that. And I'd like to be part of that.
You get the lead again.
Well, yeah. Actually, at this point in my career, I take up a new cause and take up a new thing to do. I look forward to it.
What do you think of these red light cameras that I see the smile on your face? Do you like them? Don't like them? Do you think that they're legit, not legit?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think. They're reality. I mean, they're going to be part of life in the 21st century. I mean, cameras and red light cameras are they're out there. And I don't see anybody taking up a huge cost to take. Plenty of people dislike them. There's one I have to go past almost every day as I, trek to work, but I rarely see it going off because I know it's there. But I saw.
Well, maybe that's the objective.
Yeah,
is to don't do it. Your mom's watching.
Well, and people do act a whole lot better when they know somebody's watching. So it's just modern life. There are very few places in public that you're not being surveyed in some way, and if you're not acting accordingly, well, then you're just not paying attention.
Are there other parts of the clerk's office that you have ideas about, things to work on?
Well,
I'm talking about the circuit clerk's office, not the county clerk.
Sure. No, I mean that there's similar situations to all of those. E-filing is another example that it was started under Matt Melucci, and he has expanded it quite a bit. But the federal government, the federal courts, almost entirely rely on e-filing, where and again, this is another example, is that we've come to the part where you don't see typewriters. There aren't any such thing as typewriters in modern offices, but they're creating documents on a computer, and then they print them out, and then they bring them to the circuit clerk's office, and then somebody's job is to log them in and then scan them, so that scan those documents so that we can have them available on our computer system. The asbestos docket was the first where they are e-filing those dockets now, and I think there's plenty of room to expand on that. There's room for having an interactive web-based application for average Joe citizen that wants to avail themselves with the court through a small claims court to be able to go in there and create a complaint through small claims court and file it. There are, I mean, I think as I get in, what I hope to do is to evaluate it in terms of how can I make this office more user-friendly. And when I say user, I don't mean just the lawyers. And users, lawyers, they're the main users, but citizens,
the public, yeah.
The courthouse it's the center of a society, a place that disputes are resolved. And so it's actually a place for everyone, not just a certain group of people who went to school. Now, I definitely recommend, in most cases, people go to lawyers and get professional help, but the courts belong to the people.
We got about 4 minutes left here. Are there any areas that we haven't covered that you wanted to say something about?
Well, geez.
See, I give people the opportunity here. You got something you want to say? Go ahead. Don't wait for me.
I think we have. We've done
we've covered quite a bit of territory here.
Covering it. I don't know. I think that's.
Are you going to miss being the county clerk? I mean, you've got all these people that worked for you for a number of years.
Oh yeah. I think so. In fact, I think about that. I think about just the prospect of taking all the pictures down off the wall and moving out of the office, and it's a little hard for me.
You're just moving what? Yeah. Oh no, you just move over to the other side of the courtyard.
To a different building, but moving out of the office, it makes me kind of sentimental. It's I think it's difficult to change. Change isn't easy, but it's necessary, and it's inevitable. So, why not embrace it? When I think about what's going to happen, with the next person that's county clerk, it's a little difficult for me to think about. But what I've noticed is people, the natural question, well, who's going to be the county clerk? You ought to know who the county clerk is going to be. I don't, and I'm not particularly pushing for anybody, because I see that as a landmine. A lot of people try to engineer their replacement. They try to, well, what inevitably happens is that the next person that comes along, they might want to change something, or they might have a different view of personnel that are in the office, and you have to turn the page. It's just
walk away and let it happen.
And having said that, I realize just how very hard that's going to be. But again, you have to think about it in terms of change is always inevitable. I mean, Matt Melucci is no longer the circuit clerk, because of course that's I don't want to leave that way, but our new circuit clerk is in there, and things will change. So.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this happens. I mean, we were talking a couple of weeks ago when we first talked about you're doing this show, and we were going back to Evelyn Bowles, who had been the county clerk for a long time. I don't even remember how many years.
She was in the office for 40 years. She was county clerk for 20 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was and then they move her up to being state senator.
Well, people
yes,
elected her. Yeah,
that's right. She got elected to replace Sam Vidal-Levine.
Right.
All these names from the past.
I don't think Senate is this will probably be it for me. I mean, the circuit clerk will be, I think, a nice cap for my career if that happens. Like I said, I could be charged up with a number of tasks to get done in that, and then I'll probably be done with public service.
Well, good. Well, thanks so much for coming and spending some time with us. I've been meaning to have you here even before you were a candidate for some other office, just to come and talk. But thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
I always enjoy it.
Thanks. And to my audience, I've been speaking with Mark Von Ida. He is the County Clerk of Madison County, Illinois. He is seeking the seat as the Circuit Clerk of Madison County, Illinois. We'll see you next time.